Hi, it's Greg Levine, and this is the party line for February 3rd, 2012. And does anyone remember way back in December, a series of articles, I think I might have mentioned a couple, talking about how the nuclear industry was very happy that they were going to be flipping over the calendar, turning a page, saying goodbye to their annus horribilis, their terrible year of 2011, and they get to start fresh in 2012 because, you know, time is certainly the ally of a bunch of 40-plus-year-old reactors, like reaching the end of their lifespan here in the United States. And, well, anyway, yeah, so 2011 is over, 2012 is now just over a month old, and so how's your new year doing, nuclear industry? Well, January is kind of just like 2012, really. I mean, no earthquake that starts a disaster, but the disaster in Japan continues. We found out at the very beginning of the month that Japan had suppressed government documents that were predicting the worst-case scenarios for the Fukushima disaster. And then at the end of the month, we discovered that there was yet another massive leak of water from one of the crippled reactors at Fukushima Daiichi. Lots more going on there, actually, but I want to talk about domestically, as I often do, because whether we want to talk about an incident in Wolf Creek that caused that reactor to shut down because of a loss of power, or Byron, Illinois, which also had to scram one of its reactors because external power was lost because of a fire that they actually couldn't find. So that one's still under investigation. That just happened at the beginning of this last week. Lots of the typical unusual events that we saw countless weeks last year. Almost every week, somewhere, somehow, last year. All, you know, lots of them predicated on that fascinating paradox I always come back to, which is that you need electric power to safely generate electric power if you want to go nuclear. But the one I really want to talk about this week, the one that really just, you know, gets you all hopped up, is San Onofre. San Onofre in California, Southern California. Songs to some people, San Onofre Nuclear Generating Station. Had to shut down its Unit 3. There are Unit 2 and Unit 3. Unit 1 has been offline for a very long time. It's been decommissioned, in fact. But there are two reactors at San Onofre, Unit 2 and Unit 3, and they had to scram Unit 3 because sensors were set off to a radioactive leak. As it turns out, they discovered there was indeed a leak of radioactive water in a building that wasn't the containment building, but an auxiliary building, a building that had doors and people going in and out of them, and that caused them to shut that down. It's a leak in a tube in the loop that powers the turbines. It's not the loop that goes through the reactors, but as I explain at great length in the story today, that doesn't mean it's not radioactive, because tritium, radioactive hydrogen, very tiny molecules, teeny tiny molecules, and they can go from one loop to the other loop, so that the turbine steam is still itself to some degree radioactive, and some of that water leaked. When they vent steam, often it's that steam, that tritium-laced steam, that they vent, and that happened in, for instance, Byron, Illinois this last month as well. But anyway, back to San Onofre. So there was that leak, and that caused them to shut down Unit 3, but Unit 2 is actually the scarier one, because Unit 2 has already been shut down for what was considered to be a routine refueling and maintenance pit stop, like a 2-month pit stop. But during the inspections of this, they discovered that a vast number of the 3/4-inch tubes that run between the heating elements and the turbine, these tubes, had degraded substantially. Two of them to the extent where they will have to be completely taken out of service. 60-something of them degraded by at least 20%. Another 800, I think, have degraded by like 10%. Now, these tubes I know that these facilities were opened in the early 80s, but these tubes are almost brand new. In 2009 and 2010, all of these tubes were replaced. They did a complete makeover, San Onofre home makeover special edition. I'm screwing that one up. And so these are like new tubes. And as many a nuclear regulatory commissioner will tell you, or the researchers they hire, kind of alarming. You expect this kind of degradation after decades, not after a year and a half, 2 years. So this says either these tubes were improperly manufactured, improperly installed, or improperly maintained. Maybe all three. Not beyond the realm of possibility. But shows you how many different places you can screw up and risk great harm at a nuclear facility right then and there. But more importantly, maybe, I mean, they caught it, right? Now we have to decide what to do about it. This facelift cost $670 million. To put that in context, that's $135 million more than the entire federal loan guarantee for Solyndra, the failed solar company. I talk about that in the story as well. But more importantly, this takes San Onofre, both of its units, offline for God knows how long while they inspect all of these tubes, and probably have to replace a good number of them. I mean, if they're going to be responsible about it. And this gets to, again, that point that nuclear power is not an efficient way to generate electricity. A darn stupid way to boil water, as Bucky Fuller said. A lot of people, a lot of nuclear advocates will chime in and say, oh yes, nuclear is very expensive when you're building it. To build the plant's phenomenally expensive. Some will even admit that without federal help, you couldn't build any more nuclear facilities, which is, 100% true. You can't build one without federal loan guarantees. But that once these plants are up and running, they basically run 24/7, 365, generating power, and that's, sort of indispensable, somehow economical. But the fact is that they don't run 24/7, 365. San Onofre not generating 1 ounce of power, not 1 kilowatt of power right now, all right? Neither is Wolf Creek in Kansas, one of the 2 Byron reactors, also not churning out anything. Look at 2011, and whether it's North Anna or Calvert Cliffs or Palisades, which was shut down 5 different times last year, or a plant in St. Lucie, Florida, which had to be shut down because it was swarmed by jellyfish. It also killed a lot of endangered groupers, but that's a whole other story. Or perhaps the Crystal River plant, which is, one of America's prize nuclear facilities. It hasn't generated 1 kilowatt in almost 2.5 years, and probably won't, even under best case scenario, until 2014, assuming they can find $2.5 billion to fix the thing, because it's that broken. Davis-Besse was just given a green light at the beginning of January, even though many cracks in its reactor building, many questions about its twice replaced reactor containment head, dome. Dennis Kucinich is actually making this an issue in his congressional race, as I brought up a while back. Nuclear power, once you build it, it still don't work. You see, it's still expensive. It's still offline. There is no, magic point in this process. The entire life cycle of nuclear power is dirty, it's dangerous, and it's expensive. All right? And that's the point I make pretty much every week. All right? Clean, safe, too cheap to meter? Dirty, dangerous, expensive. And you need look no further than the very first month of this very new year, which could just as well have been any month, mostly, from last year. And that is the party line. I'll see you next week.